Now, it is important that we quickly review the specifics of the economic processes through which artificial credit expansions created by a fractional reserve banking system under the direction of a central bank entirely distort the real productive structure and thus generate bubbles, induce unwise investments, and finally trigger a financial crisis and a deep economic recession. But before that, and in honor of Hayek, we must remember the fundamental rudiments of capital theory, which up to the present time, and at least since the Keynesian revolution, have been almost entirely absent from the syllabus of most university courses on economic theory. In other words, we are first going to explain the specific entrepreneurial, spontaneous, and micro-economic processes that in an unhampered free market tend to correctly invest all funds previously saved by economic agents. And this is important because only this knowledge will permit us to understand the huge differences with respect to what happens if investment is financed not by true savings, but by the mere creation out of thin air of new demand deposits which only materialize in the entries of banks' accounting books. What we are going to explain now is nothing more and nothing less than why the so-called paradox of saving is entirely wrong from the standpoint of economic theory. And unfortunately, it's something very few students of economic theory know, even when they finish their studies and leave the university. Nevertheless, this knowledge applies without any doubt to one of the most important spontaneous market processes that every economist should be highly familiar with. In order to understand what will follow, and this is very important, I would like to ask you to make slight effort, intellectual effort right now. We must visualize, imagine the real productive structure of the market as a temporal process composed of many very complex temporal stages in which most labor, capital goods, and productive resources are not devoted to producing consumer goods maturing this year, but consumer goods and services that will mature and eventually be demanded by consumers 2, 3, 4, 5, or even many more years from now. For instance, a period of several years elapses between the time engineers begin to imagine and design a new car and the time the iron ore has already been mined and converted into steel. The different parts of the car have been produced. Everything has been assembled in the auto factory, and the new cars are distributed, marketed, and sold. This period comprises a very complex set of successive productive stages. So, let us imagine now what happens if the subjective time preference of economic agents suddenly decreases, and as a result the current consumption of this year decreases, for example, by 10%, a sudden, huge increase in savings. Well, if this increase in savings happens, 3 key spontaneous micro economic processes are triggered and tend to guarantee the correct investment of the newly saved consumer goods. First effect. The first effect is the new disparity in profits between the different productive stages. Immediate sales in current consumer goods industries will fall, and profits will decrease and stagnate compared with the profits in other sectors further away in time from current consumption. I am referring to industries which produce consumer goods maturing 2, 3, 5, or more years from now, their profitability not being affected by the negative evolution of short-term current consumption. Entrepreneurial profits are the key signal that moves entrepreneurs in their investment decisions, and the relatively superior profit behavior of capital goods industries, which help to produce consumer goods that will mature in the long term, tells entrepreneurs all around the productive structure that they must redirect their effort and investments from the less profitable industries closer to consumption to the more profitable capital goods industries situated further away in time from consumption. This is the first effect. let us look at the second effect. The second effect of the new increase in savings is the decrease in the interest rate and the way it influences the market price of capital goods situated further away in time from consumption. As the interest rate is used to discount the present value of the expected future returns of each capital good, a decrease in the interest rate increases the market price of capital goods. And this increase in price is greater the longer the capital good takes to reach maturity as a consumer good. This significant increase in the market prices of capital goods, compared with the relatively lower prices of the less demanded consumer goods, due to the increase in savings, is a second very powerful microeconomic effect that signals all around the market that entrepreneurs must redirect their effort and invest less in consumer goods industries and more in capital goods industries farther from consumption. And finally, the third effect. We should mention what Hayek called the Ricardo effect, although Mark Lau says that it should be called the Hayek effect, in fact. This Ricardo effect refers to the impact on real wages of any increase in savings. Whenever savings increase, sales and market prices of immediate consumer goods relatively stagnate or even decrease. If factor incomes remain the same, this means higher real wages and the corresponding reaction of entrepreneurs who will try in the margin to substitute the now relatively cheaper capital goods for labor. What the Ricardo effect explains is something Keynes never understood. Is that it is perfectly possible to earn profits even when sales of consumer goods go down, if costs decrease even more through a replacement of labor, which has become more expensive, with, for instance, machines and computers. Who produces these machines, computers, and capital goods that are newly demanded? Precisely the workers who have been dismissed by the stagnating consumer goods industries and who have relocated to the more distant capital goods industries where there is a new demand for them to produce the newly demanded capital goods. This effect, the Ricardo effect, along with the other two mentioned above, promotes a longer productive process with more stages which are farther away from current consumption. And this new, more capital-intensive productive structure is fully sustainable, since it is fully backed by prior, genuine, real savings. Furthermore, it can also significantly increase in the future the final production of consumer goods and the real income of all economic agents. These three combined effects all work in the same direction. They are the most elementary teachings of capital theory, and they explain the secular tendency of the unhappy free market to correctly invest new savings and constantly promote capital accumulation and the corresponding sustainable increase in economic welfare and development.